In the center of the galaxy stood the Great Galactic Council, a hall built of silver stone and glowing crystals. Thousands of alien leaders gathered inside, their voices mixing into a storm of laughter and chatter. On this day, the topic was not trade, not war, not diplomacy. Instead, it was an old story, a legend. The legend of humans. The chamber echoed with mocking voices. Humans never existed, sneered a reptilian senator, his scales shining under the light. Just myths for children, cried another, a being with wings that buzzed as it spoke. Stories told to scare young soldiers, a general added with a grin. A violent race, born only in imagination. The council roared with laughter. For them, humans were a joke, a bedtime tale, nothing more. But not everyone was laughing. At the very back of the chamber sat a young alien scholar named Kale. He was small, with thin blue skin and wide, curious eyes. Unlike the others, Kale did not believe the legends were empty lies. He had spent years in the old archives, studying forgotten records, hunting for clues that others had dismissed. And now he had found something, a signal. It was faint, buried under centuries of cosmic noise, but it was real. It carried a single word, repeated again and again. Terra. Kale rose to speak. His voice trembled, but carried across the chamber. Council members, I bring proof. The myths may not be myths at all. I have found a signal. It repeats one word, Terra. I believe it is connected to the humans. The chamber erupted in laughter again. One elder slammed his claw against the table. Enough of this nonsense, he growled. Every century, some young dreamer claims to find proof. And every century, it leads nowhere. Humans never existed. Another elder, old and wise, leaned forward. His eyes glowed with a strange sadness. Kale, he said slowly, some truths are dangerous. Let the past stay buried. You're playing with fire. But Kale refused to step back. He gripped his data tablet tightly. This is not a story. The signal is real, and it grows stronger every day. The council ignored him. They returned to their debates and their laughter, brushing him aside like dust in the wind. Yet Kale could not ignore what he had discovered. That night, he returned to the archives, deep under the council's shining halls. The air was cold and heavy with silence. Rows of glowing data crystals stretched into the darkness. Kale activated his console and brought up the signal again. There it was. Clearer now. Pulsing. Alive. Terra. 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 Kale leaned closer. His heart pounded in his chest. Where are you coming from? He whispered. He traced the signal's path through the void, past dying stars and empty sectors of space. It pointed to a place long abandoned, a region no ships dared enter. The dark edge. Kale's hand shook. If the myths were true, if humans still existed, why had they stayed hidden for so long? He sent a report to the council again. No reply. He sent another. Silence. By the third, he realized the truth. They did not want to know. But others began to notice. Out on the border worlds, strange reports arrived. Merchant ships spoke of shadows in space, shapes too large to be asteroids. Patrols went missing. A listening station picked up the same signal Kale had found. Terra, Terra, Terra. Still, the council laughed. Malfunctioning equipment, they said. Space debris, they insisted. Nothing more. But the soldiers who guarded the edges of the galaxy were not laughing. They whispered to each other in hushed tones, voices tight with fear. Some remembered the old stories, of fleets vanishing in an instant, of worlds destroyed in silence. The stories had always been dismissed as fantasy. Yet now, the whispers returned. Kale stayed awake night after night, watching the signal grow stronger. He knew something was moving, something old, something powerful. One evening, as he stared at the holographic map, the signal changed. For weeks it had been only one word. But now, a second word appeared. We. Kale froze. His breath caught. The signal was no longer just a code. It was a message. Someone or something was answering. He tried to warn the council again, but they silenced him. You will not spread fear with your fantasies, an elder declared. His voice shook with anger, But Kale thought he saw something else in the old alien's eyes. Not anger, but fear. Kale left the chamber, his heart pounding. He looked to the stars above the great city. They glittered like cold fire. Somewhere out there, something was moving closer. And then, on the edge of the galaxy, a shadow appeared. It was not a ship. No single vessel could be so large. It was bigger, darker, and it swallowed the stars behind it. The border station reported its sighting. The crew screamed into the communicator, their voices filled with terror. It's not a ship. It's too big. We don't understand. The signal cut. Silence filled the void. Across the galaxy, Kale stared at his console. The signal pulsed faster, louder, until the entire chamber shook with its echo. Terra! Terra! Kale whispered into the silence. The myths, they're coming back. And for the first time in centuries, the Great Galactic Council stopped laughing. Suspense end. A shadow on the edge of the galaxy appeared, too large to be a single ship. The galaxy did not sleep that night. Whispers spread from system to system, from soldier to merchant, from scholar to smuggler. A shadow had appeared on the edge of space, a shadow too big to be one ship. The Great Galactic Council tried to silence the rumors. They declared it a natural phenomenon. They told their citizens, do not be afraid. There are no humans. There never were. But fear is stronger than orders. Fear spreads faster than light. And Kale, the young scholar, was no longer alone. Others came to him in secret. Border captains, retired officers, archivists. They all brought fragments of truth, pieces of a puzzle the council had tried to bury for centuries. Kale sat in the archives with a stack of old data crystals glowing faint blue in the darkness. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but his hands would not stop turning page after page of forgotten history. He found battle records from long ago, files erased from official databases, fleets destroyed in minutes, planets burned without explanation, whole systems abandoned. And on each erased file, hidden deep within the code, he saw the same words stamped again and again. Human. Kale's heart raced. These are not myths. These are not bedtime stories. These were reports written by commanders who had seen something real and had been ordered to stay silent. One report froze him in place. It was from an old war thousands of years past. The document described a secret meeting. Alien empires, once enemies, had united for one cause, to wipe out the humans. They grow too fast, the report said. They fight too hard. If they're not stopped now, they will rule the stars. The empires attacked Earth with all their power. Billions of humans were killed. Cities turned to ash. Survivors scattered. The galaxy believed it was over. The council erased every record, every trace. And so, the story of humans became just a myth. But Kale understood now. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had gone dark. They had hidden. They had waited. At the same time, new reports came from the border. A mining colony stopped responding. Patrol fleets vanished without a trace. Civilian ships swore they saw enormous shapes moving through the void, silent and terrifying. One frightened captain recorded his final words before his signal cut out. The myths are real, and they are coming. The council dismissed it all. Lies, malfunctions, tricks of a void. But Kale could see the truth written on their faces. The elders knew. They had always known. In secret, Kale met with an old veteran named Arvin, a warrior with scars carved deep into his skin. Arvin spoke in a low, trembling voice. I fought in the War of Silence, he admitted. We were told to destroy a human outpost. We thought they were weak, broken, but they fought with fire in their eyes. They fought like no species I have ever seen. Half my men never returned. Why didn't you tell the council? Kale asked. Arvin's eyes burned. Because they ordered us to forget. They said the humans were gone, but I never believed it. And now, I feel them again. They are returning. Kale's nights grew darker. The signal kept repeating. Sometimes it said only Terra. Sometimes it added other words. We return. Watching. Every time Kale heard the pulse, his blood ran cold. The signal was not a memory. It was not an echo of the past. It was alive. Someone was sending it. And the shadow at the edge of the galaxy was growing. On the border world of Sereth, alarms screamed through the night sky. Soldiers scrambled to their stations, looking up in terror. Above them, the stars dimmed as something vast moved across the heavens. "It's not a ship," one soldier whispered. His hands shook as he raised his scanner. "It's bigger. It's a fleet. An entire fleet." The commander shouted for calm. "All ships, prepare to engage." But even as his voice boomed across the channels, his eyes betrayed him. He knew they had no chance. For hours, the fleet hung in the sky, silent, unmoving. Then, one by one, the alien ships of Sereth began to shut down. Engines dead, weapons cold, communications silent, as if an invisible hand had crushed them all at once. The last transmission from Sereth was filled with static, but the words were clear. "The humans are not gone. They never were." Across the galaxy, panic spread. Citizens demanded answers. Soldiers refused orders. Markets collapsed. For the first time in living memory, the Great Galactic Council sat in silence. No laughter, no mockery, only fear. Kale stood in the chamber, his voice steady now. "You buried the truth. You mocked the warnings. But the humans did not die. They endured. And now they're coming back." The elders tried to deny it, but their hands shook, their voices cracked. They could no longer hide the fear in their eyes. Kale looked out of the great crystal window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the forgotten race was moving closer. And for the first time in his life, Kale wondered if the galaxy deserved what was coming. The galaxy held its breath. Border worlds had fallen silent. Fleets had vanished. A shadow, too large to be a single ship, now moved through the void. Every race whispered the same question: what is coming? The Great Galactic Council gathered once more. No laughter filled the chamber this time. Instead, voices trembled. "We must investigate," one senator said. "We must send ships," another whispered. "Ships?" scoffed a general. "If the myths are true, no number of ships will matter." At the edge of the chamber, Kale spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried. "It is not a question of if the myths are true. It is a question of how long we have left." No one answered. The silence itself was an answer. Far away, along the border of known space, a fleet of alien warships gathered. Thousands of vessels floated in formation, their weapons glowing. Admirals barked orders. Crews strapped themselves in. "Unknown fleet detected," a scanner operator said. "Size immeasurable." The admiral's voice was firm. "Open channels. Demand identification." The message raced into the void, carried by beams of light. For long minutes, there was no reply. Only silence. The alien crews shifted uneasily in their seats. Then, the stars changed. From the darkness, shapes emerged. Colossal ships, their hulls scarred and blackened, yet bristling with power. Their designs were old, almost primitive compared to modern vessels, but there was something terrifying about them. They carried the weight of survival, of war, of vengeance. A voice whispered through the scanners, deep and steady. "Human." The alien crews froze. The translation systems lit up, confirming the word. "Impossible," one officer whispered. Humans, they were myths. But the myths had just spoken. Panic broke across the alien fleet. Generals argued. Some demanded retreat. Others screamed for attack. But the human ships did not fire. They simply hung in the void, silent, unmoving, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. Then a second message came, carried on every frequency, spoken in 100 alien tongues, but always clear. "We remember what you did." The words hit harder than any weapon. The admiral of the alien fleet swallowed hard. He ordered weapons armed. Thousands of cannons turned toward the humans. Energy crackled. Missiles hummed. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. But the humans still did not fire. Back in the council, Kale stood frozen as the transmission echoed through the chamber. The voice was old, heavy, filled with rage and sorrow. "Do you hear them now?" Kale asked. His eyes burned as he looked at the elders. "You erased their history. You buried the truth. But they never forgot. They never forgave." The oldest elder's hands trembled. He whispered words no one expected to hear. "We thought they were gone. We thought we had destroyed them all. Kale stepped closer. Destroyed? You mean betrayed? You united against them. You feared them. And now they return, not as prey, but as hunters. The chamber fell into chaos. Some shouted for negotiations. Others demanded war. But all voices carried fear. At the border, the alien admiral gave the order at last. Fire. Thousands of weapons screamed into the void. Plasma bolts lit the darkness. Missiles streaked across the stars. The fury of 1,000 ships slammed toward the human fleet. For a moment, it seemed certain the humans would be destroyed. But then, something impossible happened. The weapons disappeared. Plasma fire vanished mid-flight. Missiles dissolved into dust. Energy drained from alien reactors. Ships went dark one by one, powerless, drifting. The human fleet remained untouched. On every screen, on every ship, a single human symbol appeared. An old flag, torn but proud. Beneath it, words flashed across the translators. We endured. Kale watched the images in horror and awe. He felt his chest tighten as he realized the truth. The humans had not just survived. They had grown stronger. They had built weapons beyond comprehension, strategies the galaxy could not imagine. The aliens had laughed at their myths, but the humans had turned myth into nightmare. On the border flagship, the admiral stared at the dark screen. His voice cracked. What do you want from us? For long moments, there was no answer. Only the silent shadow of the human fleet, vast and endless. Then a voice returned, colder than ice. Justice. The alien admiral shivered. Around him, his crew trembled. They all felt it. The weight of something ancient, something furious, something patient enough to wait centuries for this moment. The humans had come back, and they were not here to make peace. Back in the council chamber, chaos grew. Some leaders begged for surrender before a single shot was fired. Others demanded every weapon in the galaxy be turned against the humans. Kale stood alone in the center, his voice steady. It will not matter what you choose. They are not here to negotiate. They are here to remind you that the past is never buried. They are here to collect the debt you owe. The chamber grew silent. For the first time, the mighty rulers of the galaxy understood what the myths had always meant. Humans were not stories. Humans were not extinct. Humans were back. The human fleet did not move. It hovered at the edge of known space, silent and terrifying, a wall of black steel stretching across the stars. Alien sensors scanned it again and again, but the readings made no sense. The ships were ancient and new at the same time, patched together from scars of old wars, yet humming with strange power no scientist could explain. And still, the words echoed. We remember what you did. In the council chamber, panic reigned. Leaders shouted over one another, their voices filled with fear. They will destroy us all. We must strike first. No, we must surrender. Kale, the young scholar, stood among the chaos, his mind racing. He had uncovered the truth already in the archives, but now the galaxy would hear it. He stepped forward, raising his voice above the storm. You want to know why they are here? He cried. You want to know what they remember? Then listen, and listen well. The chamber fell into silence. Kale activated his console, and a projection filled the hall. Old records, long buried, lit up in the air, battle logs, secret meetings, maps of burned worlds. Thousands of eyes watched in horror as the truth unfolded. Long ago, the galaxy had feared humanity. Humans were small, fragile, and young compared to the great empires. But they had something the others did not. They adapted. They learned. They fought like no other species in history. The records showed how humans, though fewer in number, had defeated fleets many times their size. They invented tactics the galaxy had never seen. They turned weakness into strength. They refused to kneel. The council at the time had grown afraid that humans, if left alone, would rise too fast, too high. So the empires gathered in secret. Enemies became allies. They signed one document, one command: extermination. The galaxy turned against Earth. Armadas of thousands descended upon the human homeworld. Firestorms fell from the sky. Cities turned to ash. Oceans boiled. Billions died screaming. And when it was over, the victors swore an oath. The name of humanity would be erased from history. They would become nothing but myth, a story to frighten children. But the records Kale had uncovered told a darker truth. Not all had died. Survivors had escaped into the void, their ships broken, but they were unbroken. They had hidden in the cold darkness, far from the stars of the council. For centuries, they built in silence. They remembered the betrayal. They remembered the fire. And now, they had returned. The chamber filled with gasps. Leaders trembled. Some covered their faces with their hands, ashamed. Others snarled in anger, furious the truth had been exposed. Kale's voice cut through them all. You mocked the myths. You laughed at the stories. But the humans never forgot. And now they are here, not as legend, but as judgment. Meanwhile, across the border worlds, chaos spread. Civilizations that once dismissed the stories now trembled in fear. On trading ships, merchants whispered, "Did you hear? The humans are back. They will kill us all. No, they will make us pay." On military bases, soldiers stared at the stars, their hands shaking. Generals barked orders, but deep down, everyone knew no amount of weapons could stop what was coming. Back on the border, the alien admiral who had faced the human fleet sent a desperate message to the council. His voice cracked with fear. They did not fire at us. They did not need to. They shut down our weapons as if we were children. Our fleets are nothing to them. Nothing. They have power we cannot understand. If they wished, we would all be dead. He paused, and his final words chilled the council to silence. They are not asking for peace. They are asking for vengeance. The humans finally moved. Slowly, their fleet advanced, a wall of shadows drifting toward the heart of the galaxy. Not a shot fired, not a word spoken, yet every species felt the noose tighten around their throats. World after world fell silent as human ships passed overhead. They did not attack. They simply appeared, vast and dark, blotting out the skies. Civilizations knelt in terror, waiting for death that never came. It was worse than destruction. It was a reminder. Humanity had returned, and they held the galaxy in their grasp. In the council chamber, an elder rose, his voice trembling. Perhaps we can talk to them. Offer peace. Offer forgiveness. Kale turned sharply. Forgiveness? After what you did to them? Do you think they came all this way for words? The elder sagged into his chair. His silence was the answer. That night, Kale stood alone on a balcony, staring at the stars. He thought of the humans, what they had endured, what they had become. A part of him admired them. Another part feared them. For centuries, the galaxy had called them myths. But now the myths had returned, armed with fire and vengeance. And the truth was clear. The galaxy was broken. It had betrayed humanity once, and now it would pay the price. The human fleet advanced. Like a storm of shadows, their ships moved into the heart of the galaxy. They did not rush. They did not shout. They came with the silence of inevitability. Every world that saw them trembled. Every race whispered the same truth. The myths live. The council, desperate and divided, called for war. No more waiting. One general shouted, "If we do nothing, they will strangle us without a shot. We must strike now, with everything we have." Others begged for peace, but fear drowned their voices. At last, the council gave the order, gather all fleets. Every empire, every weapon, every soldier. The galaxy would stand together once more. Across the stars, millions of ships assembled. Great armadas filled the void, plasma cannons glowing, antimatter missiles armed, war drums echoing in silence. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was united again. But this time, their enemy was not a young race rising. It was the ghost they thought they had killed. Kale stood in the observation chamber, watching the fleets gather. His chest tightened. "You do not understand," he whispered. "They're not like us anymore. There's something more." But no one listened. The war machine was already moving. The battle of myths began at the border of the Seraph system. Alien fleets filled the skies, a wall of fire and steel. At their heart floated the flagship of the council, a massive vessel armed with weapons strong enough to crack planets. Commanders shouted across channels, their voices sharp with fear. Target the human fleet. Do not hesitate. This is our last chance. The galaxy held its breath. Then the humans arrived. They came like a tide, black ships sliding from the void, thousands upon thousands, their hulls scarred with the marks of centuries of survival. Their engines burned with cold blue fire. The alien commanders gave the order. Attack! The sky lit up. Plasma storms roared. Antimatter bombs tore through the darkness. Beams of pure energy slashed across the void. It was the fury of a galaxy unleashed. For a moment, the stars themselves seemed to die under the weight of so much fire. But when the light faded, the human fleet still stood. Gasps echoed across the alien channels. Impossible! They should be destroyed. But the humans had endured worse. Their ships moved through the barrage like shadows, weapons glowing with eerie light. Then at last they struck back. The first human volley was not massive. It was precise. One alien battleship simply vanished, consumed in a flash of light. Then another. Then another. Human weapons cut through shields as if they were glass. Alien admirals shouted, desperate. Hold the line. They are few, we are many. But numbers no longer mattered. Human ships split apart into smaller formations, weaving through the galaxy's mighty fleets with impossible speed. Their tactics were strange, unpredictable. They struck where no one expected, disappeared before counterfire could reach them, then returned from another angle. Alien commanders, trained in centuries of predictable war, found themselves lost, broken, outmatched. The battle turned into slaughter. On the Council flagship, generals screamed at their screens. Why can't we hit them? Our targeting systems fail. They know our moves before we make them. Kale watched in silence. His eyes were wide, his hands clenched. He had known the humans were dangerous, but even he had not imagined this. They did not fight like an army. They fought like predators. He whispered to himself, they learned from us, but they became something more. Panic spread across the alien fleets. Whole formations broke and fled. Some ships surrendered before a shot was fired at them. But the humans gave no answer. They moved like a tide, cold and relentless. Then, from the darkness, the largest human ship emerged, a flagship unlike any seen before. Its hull was scarred black, its edges jagged, its weapons glowing like the eyes of a beast. Every alien fleet froze. The shadow of the ship blotted out the stars. A voice filled every channel, every ship, every world. It was deep, calm, and merciless. You hunted us. You burned our world. You erased our name. And still we survived. You called us myths. Now we are your reality. Alien commanders dropped their heads. Soldiers trembled at their stations. Some cried openly, knowing the truth. The battle was already lost. The voice continued, steady and cold. We are not here to destroy you. Not yet. We are here to remind you of what you did. We are here to make you fear as we once feared. We are here to take back the galaxy you stole. Then the flagship's weapons charged. A beam of light brighter than a sun roared across space. An entire alien fleet, thousands of ships, vanished in an instant. The galaxy screamed. The myths had become monsters. Kale fell to his knees as he watched the destruction unfold. His heart pounded, torn between awe and terror. A part of him whispered that the galaxy deserved this fate. Another part prayed the humans would stop. But deep down, he knew the truth. Humanity had waited too long, suffered too much. They would not stop now. Suspense end. The human flagship appears above the Galactic Council's homeworld, its cannons glowing. The next shot will decide the fate of a galaxy. The galaxy's homeworld trembled. From orbit, the human flagship blotted out the sun. Its cannons glowed with the fire of vengeance, its hull scarred with the wounds of centuries. The Galactic Council, once the symbol of unity, once the rulers of 1,000 stars, now cowered beneath its shadow. Kale stood in the council chamber. The walls shook with fear. Generals screamed into calms. Leaders argued in desperation. But everyone knew the truth. The end had come. One elder whispered, his voice shaking. The myths are real. They never died. The council's high speaker, pale and trembling, slammed his fist on the table. Send a message. Tell them we will surrender. But it was too late. Above, the human voice returned. Deep, cold, unstoppable. We are the children of fire. We are the exiles who survived the silence of death. You thought you buried us under ash and myth. But we endured, and now we return. Every word echoed across the planet, across every ship, across every star and range. Billions heard it. Billions trembled. The council's leaders fell silent. Some began to cry. Others prayed. But Kale stared at the ceiling, his eyes wide. He felt something strange. Not just fear, but hope. The humans did not fire immediately. Their weapons stayed glowing, humming with endless power. The waiting itself was worse than death. Every second stretched into eternity. Finally, the human voice spoke again. We do not come to erase you. Not yet. We come to remind you of what you did. For centuries, you hunted us. You mocked our stories. You erased our name from history. You told the galaxy that humanity was weak, gone, forgotten. A pause. The silence pressed like a weight. But we never forgot you. The flagship's cannons shifted, aiming not at the council chamber, but at the sky itself. With a single burst, they vaporized the great orbital fortress that guarded the planet. The explosion lit the skies, brighter than a sun. The message was clear. We can kill you whenever we wish. Kale's breath shook. Around him, alien leaders broke down in panic. Some shouted for evacuation. Others demanded surrender. But Kale whispered to himself, they're not just here for revenge. They are here for something more. Then, the voice changed. It was no longer only cold. There was sorrow inside it. We were not always like this. Once we were dreamers. We built cities of light. We reached for the stars with hope, not hate. But you took that from us. You turned our hope into hunger, our dreams into weapons. You made us what we are. Kale closed his eyes. He felt guilt heavy in his chest, even though he had never raised a weapon against humans. The weight of history pressed down on him. Across the galaxy, broadcasts showed the same scene. The human fleet surrounding the council's world, the flagship casting its shadow. Billions watched in silence, hearts filled with terror. On some worlds, riots broke out. On others, people fell to their knees, whispering prayers to humans as if they were gods or demons. Myths had returned, not as stories, but as conquerors. At last, the humans gave their command. You will not forget us again. From this day forward, every world will remember our name. Every child will learn the truth. Humanity lives. The fleet's cannons pulsed once more. But instead of firing at the planet, they fired into the void, great arcs of energy that lit up the stars. A warning, a declaration, a promise. The galaxy saw. The galaxy understood. In the council chamber, silence fell. The high speaker collapsed into his chair, his face pale as stone. What do they want?" he whispered. Kale's voice shook as he answered. "They don't want our surrender. They want our fear, our memory, our respect, and they already have it." Above, the flagship slowly turned, its massive engines burning blue fire. The fleet followed, a storm of shadows returning to the void. They did not stay to occupy. They did not stay to rule. They left, leaving only silence, destruction, and terror behind. But their message remained. Across the galaxy, one sentence spread like wildfire. The humans have returned. On distant worlds, young races whispered the old myths with new fear. Elders trembled, remembering stories they once dismissed. No one laughed anymore, because now they knew the truth. The myths were not stories. The myths were warnings. Kale stood alone in the chamber after the others fled. He looked up at the stars, his heart heavy with both dread and awe. "They are not finished," he whispered. This was only the beginning. Far away, in the depths of space, the human fleet vanished into the black. The flagship's final message echoed through every channel, every world, every soul. "We are humanity. We endured the fire, and we're coming home."